Welcome to the Trash Cats Trash Cast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
Today we're going to talk about the Ukiyo-e. I fucked that up. Welcome to the Trash Cats Trash Cast. Oh, I didn't like that delivery either. Welcome to the Trash Cats Trash Cast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
Today we're going to talk about Ukiyo-e woodblock prints. But first, Steven, how was your week?
My week's it's been okay. It's been super busy. We've been snowed in all week, so. But
hell yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like been over a foot of snow. I did want to shout out my neighbor, Diane, the old lady from up the hill. She was still trying to take out my trash cans this week, and there's ice all over the hill. She's ridiculous.
God bless you, Diane.
She's so sweet. But then she sent me 22 texts overnight, and her phone jumbles them all, so it's like a big riddle. And in one of the texts, she said she felt like she was in The Shining and going crazy. And I was like, oh boy.
Oh, good.
So that was pretty funny. We also got...
check on Diane.
I tried to. She's really awesome. Then we got an espresso maker. So I've been going hard on that.
Fuck yeah.
And then I'm trying to figure out... our betta fish is dying. So I'm trying to... every time I think I'm going to have to put him down, he pops back up. I don't know what to do. But,
yeah, that's a bummer, dude.
Yeah.
I have no experience with owning or taking care of fish. I know that I can't do it because I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? Diligent enough on the regular cleaning.
Yeah, honestly, Sarah does. It's her fish. She does most of it, but it's been a good little fish. And putting down a fish gets pretty morbid. So we're trying to see if he'll recover, but it's just been dragging on. Speaking of Sarah, she's actually, just a heads up to listeners, she's gonna come home at some point. So you might hear a doorbell go bow, bow, at some point.
Cool.
But
and we'll know.
Besides that, man, I was just hyped to record. Got Monster Tobacco, ready to do this. Feeling hyped. How about you?
I'm waiting for Monster to put out their own tobacco line. Oh. You know, Monster flavored dip. Come on.
Or Monster flavored like tobacco. Ugh.
Yeah. Dude, Monsterillos? Come on.
Oh my god.
They could just call them Monsterillos.
I think we talked about it one episode, but the guy I worked with that just ate dip and coffee all day at work.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. So funny.
Oh Jesus, fuck.
How's your week been, man?
Eating dip. It's not as bad as eating dip. We got a bunch of snow up here. It was actually the first decent snow of the season. So that was nice. You know, in the way that it feels like actually winter now, and it doesn't feel like, okay, there's something very, very wrong here. It was like back to normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But of course the teams up here, the road teams, have been on their shit, and they've been waiting for it to happen. So it didn't really last very long.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything's cleared off except for small side streets. So. But I did get a day off of work because of it. It's like when it gets to a certain point, people aren't going to come in, and there's going to be less Uber drivers, not Uber, but like Grubhub and DoorDash drivers out there. So just doesn't make sense for us to be there.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. I'll take a day off.
Snow days are always good.
Right. So you got any honorable mentions?
Oh man, I got lost in the sauce with it. Do you want to do yours first? Because I got a couple.
Yeah, I can hit mine up first.
Okay, cool.
So on topic, I think all of ours are pretty much on topic with our theme today. I wanted to point out these two artists, and they're kind of the artists that really got me into really liking this media, this Ukiyo-e woodblock prints. And it's weird because they're different from what the typical norm is for these, kind of prints, for this style because they do landscapes. But Hokusai and Hiroshige, they both did a separate rendition of this style, or of the series of 36 views of Mount Fuji. I'm pretty sure Hokusai did like 3 or 4 volumes of his own version of it, but the first 36 are some of the most prominent woodblock prints that people know about, because it was around the time that people were starting to get this art in from Japan all over the world. They started actually trading and stuff. So Hokusai came first, and his work is a lot more, I don't want to say dull, it's more subtle in colors. Where Hiroshige uses a lot stronger, vibrant colors. He came a little bit later. Both just very prolific painters, and not painters, illustrators and carvers, and they make really fantastic work.
I love how similar but different they are.
Yeah, and to go back and do, a similar version of what the other artists did, I think it says a lot, and it's not that they're that far apart in time. It's probably only 20 years or so worth of time before Hiroshige came around and said, these are mine, these are my views. And it's, each of them have 100 of them or so at this point.
Yeah.
But they release them in sets of 36.
Yeah, that's really... my favorite so far is by, I don't want to mispronounce, the first artist.
Hokusai.
The first link you sent me.
Yeah.
Skype. Did you hear me?
No, you said in Skype?
Skype disconnected, but we're good. My favorite so far is the first link you sent me, that artist, the tea house, the morning after a snowfall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a really nice one.
So beautiful. They're so simple in a way,
Yeah, and it's landscapes aren't the typical style of or format you get with Ukiyo-e prints, but they really set a standard for how it's done, and I think it's definitely Hokusai is most famous for the Great Wave.
Okay,
that's the one everyone knows, and that's one of my favorite pictures of all time, is that that print, because it was so influential to me as a kid when you learn how it's done and how it works. It's just a really beautiful piece.
Yeah, Hokusai did the piece I was talking about, the tea house, the morning after. Oh man, so good.
So my second one was it's a different Hokusai work, but it's the other one that he's really famous for is the Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, and it's an octopus eating out seems to be feasting on the groin area of a woman, and it is it's a classic representation of when people talk about where hentai and tentacle porn comes from. That's the one that's look how old this is, and and it's wild shit. But it's there's a whole era of erotic work being done in this format, this woodblock print format, and it was strictly forbidden to do and to give out or to sell. There was a style called shunga, and despite the shogun's orders, a lot of artists still did it and produced it and sold it. So shout out to all those artists getting that porn game on point.
Yeah, they really like that shit, don't they?
It was cool. Just and it's some of it's quite grotesque, or not grotesque. That's not the word for it. Quite vivid, graphic. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah, and
it can be, really kind of strong, and some of it's complicated, but it's keeping it real, yo.
Yeah, after I saw you included that piece in your honorable mentions, that led me down a wormhole.
I'm sure.
So we're going to see some other stuff too. Oh, man.
Good.
Yeah.
So what you got?
Okay, so this first one, and excuse all my mispronunciations as always. This is one of my favorite artists that I know the least about. Takato
Yamamoto.
Yes. I'm gonna have you just Google him real quick, and then I'm gonna send you one of my favorite pieces. I feel like you've definitely seen his work.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen this work before.
It is incredible. He was born in 1960, a Japanese painter and manga artist. He is known for developing a unique style that he termed Hensai aestheticism, which blends the influences from Japanese Ukiyo-e painting with Western Gothic art to create dark but beautiful images. And they're just so beautiful and tragic. Like, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, very goth style.
Yeah, it's Japanese goth shit.
Yeah.
So if you click that first link, that's one of my favorite pieces by him.
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, it unfortunately, it's hard to find a lot of information about his work without really diving deeply. Like, I don't know if it's a translation issue, but titles are not very clear with his stuff. So we're definitely going to post pictures for a lot of it. I also really like his version of Saint Sebastian. I've sampled it in my own work because it's just so beautiful.
So this is a painting. Is this a woodblock print?
I don't know. I think they're painting or illustration.
They're very, very detailed, which would make me believe that they're not. But I've seen, there's some really wild shit out there, so you never know.
Yeah, I think
these are really impressive. They're just gorgeous use of colors, and it's muddier colors, and not muddy, I guess. Muddy is a way, but they're less saturated.
Yeah, exactly. Low saturation. It's got a grimy goth feel.
Yeah, fuck yeah, I dig this shit.
Hell yeah. So next I'll move right on to, I think this will be kind of funny. Just Google the second artist name. It's Daizha. Daizha.
Okay, word.
Have you seen her before?
Yeah, I've seen her before.
Yeah, dude. She's fucking awesome. So she's the chick that tattooed the octopus vagina. She's got octopus tentacles coming out of her vagina and ass, and it's brutal.
It's brutal. It's so fucking cool though.
It's so fucking cool looking.
Nice, pretty colors too. Vibrant.
Yeah, she's on Pornhub if you want to check her out. Daizha. I think she's a rapper and DJ now. I remember listening to something by her and it was not very good, but I think she's awesome. And I don't know who the tattoo artist is, but it's fucking dope. Such a good idea.
Go on Pornhub, hit up the comment section on her videos, tell them we sent you.
She's pretty rad though. Definitely worth checking out. I mean, honestly, it is all her stuff's all about sex, but the art is gorgeous. It's such a creative idea. There's so many random people that have tried to rip her tattoo idea off, and it looks terrible. She's
right.
Got
the OG.
Yep. So I thought that'd be funny. So then you see how this rabbit hole developed. So this next one, this next one is, I don't know the exact artist, but it's the t-shirt art of a grindcore band. The band's name is Stoma. And this link,
I want to real quick point something out. Yeah. Because what I did was Google searched, before you put this link in the notes here, I Google searched the word Stoma. I don't recommend that at all. Well, that's a bad idea.
Their shirts are just as brutal. So the record label's called Fat Tub of Lard, and they do custom art shirts of gore bands and grindcore shit, and it's the most brutal fucking metal shirts you can find.
Yeah, these are fucked up.
Dude, they're wild. The snakes.
Yeah, they're eels, and I know what you're talking about.
That shit's beautiful though.
Yeah, that's some wild shit.
We don't have to describe it too much, but it's check it out.
Yeah, you're into some brutal shit.
Dude, it's so fucking cool. It was so hard to find shirts like this. I love that this record label is able to put out this kind of shit.
Yeah, Fat Tubalard Records.
Yeah, definitely check them out.
Okay.
And then I got one more, which is a turn. It's much more lighthearted and very funny. And it's
not tentacle porn.
Not tentacle porn. Very funny music video by DJ Ozma, and we're gonna watch that at the end and get kind of our reactions to it. So
yeah,
I think with that we'll get into our topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So should I start it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Whew. Japanese woodblock prints, specifically the Ukiyo-e style. I got it. I said it right.
You nailed it.
Ukiyo-e, which is the most prominent and admired style of woodblock printing. We also be referencing a documentary called Art of the Game, Ukiyo-e Heroes. And if you guys haven't seen that, it's fucking awesome. And
yeah, it's
definitely worth checking out to get like an intro to this art style and just some really cool shit. It was a great source of information for us, and it goes into UK woodblock printing, some of the big artists, how they do this, and it has this big crossover with modern video games, which just makes it really fun.
Yeah.
So block printing is a technique for printing text, pictures, or patterns that is used in East Asia as a method of printing on cloth. The earliest surviving examples from China date before 220 AD, and both of us.
That's just for the cloth printing,
right?
Is the older one? There's 220 AD, but the technique of carving and printing with it, it's such a wild, notion, because to think of, for now, I think, when you think of printing something or replicating something, it's like the work that would go, you'd have to go through to do that. There's so many ways to do that now.
Yeah, this is like the both the oldest and most difficult way you could try to do some prints now.
Yeah,
and they're stunning for that love that's put into them, but it's so difficult.
Yeah, I kind of fell in love with this style of block prints in general, as a respect when I think it must have been 5th grade. We did some linoleum cut prints at school, and just learning how much detail went into that. Linoleum is super easy to cut into, and because it's softer, you're gonna not have it's gonna be harder to get details, like really fine lines and stuff like that.
Right.
But the wood block, the amount of time that goes into that to get something, that perfect and beautiful with, the details and stuff is really, I just find it so impressive. And, to see the things that, the Japanese ones and how they influence so much of Western art. I got a book when I was really young about that, and I think it's, it definitely influenced a lot of my own personal taste in art, and like how I grew to learn about a lot of different artists, based on doing research on this style.
Yeah, I definitely have been very influenced by Japanese art in general. I never really got super into the printing stuff. I had done some printing, like not like linoleum kind of print stuff, but it's so tedious it just wasn't for me. I really appreciated and enjoyed doing it, but I mainly just love, all kinds of Japanese art. And it made it really fun to learn more about these printers.
Yeah. So the Ukiyo-e style is the best known type of Japanese woodblock art print. Most European uses of the technique for printing images on paper, they're covered by the whole term woodcuts. But the Ukiyo-e style is actually a 400-year-old traditional style. It was widely adopted in Japan during the Edo period. So that's 1600s. And while it's similar to woodcuts in the Western style, the Japanese technique is different mainly because it uses water-based ink. So they get a wider range of vivid colors and glazes and different kind of transparency that they can do. Ukiyo-e loosely means contemporary or floating in time. So I kind of take that to mean that it's capturing a moment in time.
Yeah.
We were talking before after seeing the documentary about one of the grandmasters in the video says that it's it means contemporary because it's almost like pop art. It's about taking the cultures and the fashions of the time, and it presents it with this classical aesthetic, but you still want to try to capture what's going on. And of course that becomes difficult to continue that tradition because there are fewer artists left that are doing the style that are there to preserve it. Right. So the documentary actually said there are less than 10 ukiyo-e craftsmen that are currently working in Japan.
That is very unfortunate. I really think it's well, first off, their colors are beautiful. Like they do such great saturation, and they really do their colors just so perfect, even achieving the gradations and stuff we'll talk about later. But I really love how they capture the scene so well. There's so much you can learn about their composition. It's so well thought out and planned. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting how, Ukiyo-e means contemporary, but it's like ancient contemporary now.
Right. Yeah. And it's beautiful, and it's just the aesthetic choices, I guess, of it.
And that's kind of where the in the documentary Ukiyo-e heroes it all tied together, because it was they were doing modern contemporary video game characters in this ancient style, and that was fun.
Yeah.
So Ukiyo-e is often considered the face of Japan to the outside world in art aesthetics, and is highly coveted by Western collectors. Some of this art form has become so rare because of the result of an earthquake in 1923, which destroyed a massive portion of Japan's woodblock print archives. And that just sounds so fucking ridiculous. But once you see how all these woodblocks are stored together in a lot of these places, because not many people are producing them, so they have massive archives of all these blocks. So yeah, a particularly destructive great earthquake could destroy a large amount of the work.
Yeah, they say it actually helped to preserve a lot of the work that because foreigners had taken some of the stuff outside of the country, and a lot of those they would have been lost if they hadn't been bought or taken away.
Yeah, sorry, Skype's being goofy.
Anytime it cuts out on your side, I don't have any problems.
Okay, yeah, I'll just let you keep. Cool. So anytime you see one of those prints, you have to realize that what you're seeing is much more different than a painting. Each color, gradient, outline, it's all done separately. There are some woodblock prints that have dozens of carved blocks, each with a different layer. That piece then has to be lined up with extreme precision before each layer is applied. Each line in the print means that someone carved it out.
So yeah, it's just incredible detail, and you said like each color is a different layer.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, man. To plan it out, like taking the time to like plan out what piece is going to be what, and then you have to get it right, to actually execute it. I think that's such a wild thing, but it turns out so beautiful.
And that's definitely part of why the compositions are so dynamic and interesting, because they have to be so perfectly planned. Like how you're going to do this layer under this layer to get this effect, to have this line go over.
You're not going to spend the time to make, all this time making it for it to be a shitty piece.
Right.
That's so they're, of course they're prepared and, it's a relief pattern. So the areas that they want to show as white, or, to not show up, with this layer, they have to cut away with a knife or, sandpaper for small amounts. So they leave the characters or the image to show in black at the original surface level. And then they can apply ink to the block and then bring it into contact with the paper to achieve, the acceptable print. So they have to be, also made in reverse, because when you're putting that paper on there, you're getting a mirror image of it. So that gets a lot harder, and especially when they started using text. And then, like you said, for color printing, they used multiple blocks. So they're, not just doing the multiple layers, but they're doing it, in reverse of what they want it to look like in the end. Overprinting, they could also, put different colors over top of each other in like layers. So they could, get different kind of palettes, not palettes, but hues out of each, layer.
And that's how they would achieve their gradients too, by just such precision to do that with different colors to create a gradient in printing.
So on top of all the technical knowledge you need, the color theory is there. And it's, depending on, what you had for the pigment at the time, really decided on how you were going to blend it. Like whether you got blue from, one mineral or another, it was going to decide whether you could blend it in a way that you want to, that it's going to work with this other color. And it's just a whole wild shit back then.
Dude, did you see, they just came up with a new blue pigment?
No.
There's always, like, throughout all of history, there's been one blue pigment, cobalt blue, and like a week or two ago, they created a new blue pigment.
Okay, fuck.
Yeah, there's some other ones like the ultra blacks that are like negative light sources, and like
I've seen some more of that. Yeah,
the highlight pink. What was it called? The black was called like Fanta black or something.
Yeah, Vanta.
Yeah, that's what
I did see that.
And they got some like pink ones that are crazy too.
Did you see they painted a Lexus in that Vanta black?
Yeah,
and then they crashed it. Dude, like almost immediately.
So fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Dude, I would hate to have to carve these wood blocks in reverse. That mirroring would be it would make it so much harder for your brain to carve accurately, I feel like.
Well, I assume they would mirror the image that they want on paper or something first. And then, when, they're carving it out, they'd reference to that.
Yeah.
But that means that, they'd have to
still.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Because you still have to, you're not able to see exactly what you're carving as it will be.
Right.
That would throw me off so hard.
Yeah, you don't see it until you actually put some ink on it and fuck with it.
Yeah. So, and because of this, they had to come up with ways to line these blocks up so they register just right. So they developed 2 registration marks carved in the blocks, and that would allow the multiple colors to be introduced with precision over the previous ink layers. A sheet of paper would be printed and placed on the marks and then lowered onto the wood block. So they carved like two little like notches in the corners of the blocks.
That seems like that's critical.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
you have to have a cheater bar kind of thing.
I mean, I'm sure you've had to do it even when you recently did some matting and stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
God, those registers. I fucking hate that measuring, bro. I hate it.
Yeah. It's because the math doesn't work the way you want it to.
Never.
It's subtractive, and you have to remember it's on every side.
Oh, dude, I hate it. Like, I'm always trying to come up with like a new technique to cut straight lines for matting and printing shit. Like, there is a way. Like, I want a big like rectangular punch cut to do prints with or something.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
Just
So
mash it down, man.
Yeah. The art of carving woodcut is technically known as xylography. I think
I was gonna say xylography.
Xylography.
And the term's rarely used anymore, but I left that in the notes because I wanted to hear Steven try to pronounce it.
I did better than I thought I might have.
Yeah, you did a lot better than I thought you were gonna do. Like, I'm not even sure how it's supposed to be, but I read it as xylography.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And of course, because of the care and precision it takes to, like, you know, make these details, it only made sense, you know, it makes sense to use the best tools and materials you could find. So, like, with the paper quality, the ink quality, you know, if you have the right tools, that leads to a lasting preservation of the piece for hundreds of years. You know, they have pieces that are, you know, 400 years old because they know, and that's how they know, like, this is when these styles came around, is they have these pieces to show it. And not only that, they have the wood blocks, and, you know, you have to take care of those to keep them, you know, well. And I think it's really cool how the carvings themselves, you know, can last so long, and they can be used to print, you know, a near infinite amount of this gorgeous art.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts because it's like an ancient form of digital printing. You know, that once you have your blocks, like you can reproduce that forever as long as you take care of them and your materials are good. And that's a beautiful. I love the ability to reproduce things like that. That's part of why I'm so drawn to digital.
Yeah. And it's extremely, you know, laborious, but it makes the work timeless.
Right.
You know, and even the paper to print on, it's crafted so well and perfectly that it can last that long. And after we'll finish up the history a little bit, and then we're going to talk more about the paper.
Yeah, because the tools they use, it's just so ridiculous. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So Japanese woodcut became a major artistic form, although at the time it was accorded at a much lower status than painting. Relief printing actually evolved from the use of stamps and seals. So when it first was like coming to be, it was looked down upon compared to painting. Yeah,
it was like it's a lesser form. Oh, it's just, you know, that's just making stamps, dog. We've been doing that.
Yeah, and prior to the invention of woodblock printing, seals and stamps were used for making impressions, fucking sealing envelopes and shit.
Right.
The oldest of which came from Mesopotamia and Egypt. The use of round cylindrical seals with the common name of brayers for rolling an impression onto clay tablets goes back to 3000 BC in Mesopotamia.
The brayers thing, I didn't realize how old of a tool that was. I mean, that's what we used when we did the linoleum prints in fifth grade.
Really?
It was just, you know, they make them out of plastic and they got a little handle on them, and you just, you know, to apply even pressure, you know, across the thing.
I think I know what these are now. Oh yeah, of course.
It's a brayer.
That's so... I had never heard the name for that little roller.
I hadn't even thought about it until I was reading that passage for the first time, and then I was thinking about, oh yeah, that's that thing. That's that thing that I've seen.
Yeah.
That I used before.
Have you ever gotten into any of like the wax stamp kind of stuff?
No, but I've always wanted to. I've always thought that was a really cool thing you'd see in, you know, like old style, like, you know, Game of Thrones shit and whatever, when they pour the candle wax out on the thing and then roll the seal onto it. And
yeah,
I think that's a really cool fucking idea, but I'm not, the rich billionaire who could get away with, the eccentric weirdo that puts fucking seals on their letters.
Yeah.
Not only that, it's going to make the weight go up and it's going to cost more to send it.
Yeah. I have a friend that they do wedding, like custom wedding stuff, and they do some really cool, stamp stuff. And you can order
I can see
cut
that being
stamps
really cool.
online and stuff now, where you'll put your design and they'll print the stamp for you. It's pretty cool.
I can see that being a lot of fun to do, actually.
Definitely.
That whole industry of, making and creating specific shit for certain, appearances and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're really good too.
So up to this point in the history, we're talking about the, putting stamping marks into the relatively soft materials with the, the brayers and stuff like that. In China and Egypt, using small stamps for seals preceded the use of the larger blocks to do prints. In Europe and India, the printing of cloth preceded the printing of paper and papyrus. So that was probably also the case in China. The process is essentially the same. In Europe, special impressions of prints were printed on silk until the 17th century. So they're using, this technology, but it's mostly on, first it was clay and then, eventually in wax and then eventually paper, and then cloth. And then eventually they got into paper. That was almost like the last thing they did.
Right. Yeah.
Which paper is kind of a bitch to make anyway, so that kind of makes sense. But
yeah,
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah. Quick sidebar on printing press stuff. The development of the printing press in Europe may have been influenced by the movable type technology brought back to Europe by business people and missionaries returning from China. And there's a lot to that where Chinese printing and stuff has influenced the printing press stuff. During the Bronze Age, stamps were using a similar method with reusable characters and have been cited for early examples of movable type printing. Just cool.
The earliest known Japanese woodblock printing dates are from 1764 to 1770. When Empress Shodoko commissioned 1 million small pagodas containing short printed scrolls, typically 2 inches by 17 inches long, to be distributed to all the temples. Which fucking bonkers. But what
a maniac.
Yeah. Imagine the job. I mean, I was going to say jobs, but it was probably not paid people doing it. I don't know. You need to take somebody with skill to do that. So probably that's worth looking into. So apart from the production of Buddhist texts, which of course became more commonplace in the 11th century in Japan, the process was only adopted in Japan for secular books, surprisingly late. And the first example of that was a Chinese Japanese, I can't talk, a Chinese Japanese dictionary, that came out in 1590. So that was the first thing outside of, religious texts that, they use their printing for.
Yeah.
And even though the Jesuits, operated a moving type printing press in Nagasaki, they had printing equipment that the Japanese army seized from Korea, and it had a far greater influence on the development of the medium. So 4 years after they started using it for more secular stuff, they created the first native movable typing interface. They used wooden type pieces instead of metal pieces. And because of their language, they made 100,000 different type pieces. which were used to print a number of political and historical texts. An edition of the Confucian Analects was printed in 1598. They used that Korean-style movable type printing press. That document is the oldest work of Japanese movable type printing that exists today. So despite the appeal of the movable type, it was decided that the running script style of the Japanese writing, the vertical whatnot, would be better reproduced using the woodblocks. So by 1640, like just 50 years later, they were using the woodblocks again for all purposes.
Dude, that's fucking wild. How the fuck did the Jesuits get involved in everything?
Well, the Catholics got to be, operating out of everywhere at all times because they need power. And we know this if you've listened to our second episode of podcast.
The Jesuits are their own thing, though.
I thought that was a Catholic branch.
They're Christian, but they're their own thing.
That's
like
the
it's
same
not
shit.
Pretty much, but it's so interesting that they are getting printing presses stolen in fucking Korea by the Japanese.
The Jesuits didn't, so they brought their own movable printing press in Nagasaki. The Japanese stole the one from Korea.
Gotcha.
That was they were doing military work over there. Military work, I mean being war, and they took their technology for printing.
So is it correct to assume that how do I want to phrase this, that like different Japanese and Asian printing directly resulted in our printing press stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So so the Jesuits had theirs, but like the Japanese model was influenced by the Koreans. They knew about this technology already because of the Jesuits coming over with it, and they said, "Fuck this! That kind of sucks compared to this. We have better stuff already. Well, fuck that."
Wow.
So it gained popularity among a lot of publishers. It was used to produce affordable prints as well as books, and as a result, Japan began to see literary mass production and increasing literacy among citizens. You make more books, then people read more books.
Dude, it's crazy how fast that spark of knowledge can catch.
Yeah,
it just changes everything.
Think of how dumb people got within a century after the Library of Alexandria burned down.
Dude, I can't imagine book burning shit. And anytime, especially in modern history, you see a book burning of some sort, you just know they're wrong.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid.
So
whenever I think of book burning or burning media in general, I always think of the Arrested Development episode where he goes and he's burning his old it was a tape or a record of Jerky Boys.
Yeah.
They just do like prank calls and dumb shit. And
it was the Christian music burning party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only acceptable to burn Bibles.
Yep.
No books. That kind of leads us, we want to talk about this goddamn paper. This paper shit's crazy, man.
Yeah. The entire process in making paper by itself, you can Google, like a 5-minute video for just like to watch somebody go through the entire process of it. It's so labor intensive and so fucking messy.
Yeah, and especially all these years in the past, God, like without the technology doing this shit by hand, they wanted the best paper that can last forever for these prints, and it's extraordinary what they were able to do back then and what they're still currently doing.
Right.
So the documentary focused on this 9th generation paper crafter, and this dude's entire life is about crafting paper, and it looked like he was becoming paper. Like his skin was so smooth. Like He looked like a paper man. And this dude just he's so dedicated and disciplined. And all the paper itself is made from, what is it, the kozo plants?
Yeah.
And all these plants come from like one specific village. The kozo plant grows in other places, but it's all in protected national forests. So to get this paper, men have to go deep into the forest into bear territory, and they're risking their lives every time to get this plant. And that's extraordinary by itself. But they're collecting this plant. It's brought back to their workshop in the village. They beat the plants down to a fibrous pulp, and then they remove all the impurities by hand. And then they have to detangle each fiber one by one. Every single fucking fiber detangled by hand. It's crazy. He said,
ridiculous.
Any spare moment this man has, he's detangling tiny little fibers.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, they have to do it all in this cold spring water. And I was trying to figure out exactly what temperature it was. I missed it when he said it, but it was super cold. And
it'd be like 42 degrees in the wintertime.
God. And they're doing it all day. Your hands in the cold water detangling these fibers. So it makes this tedious task like so much more painful. He said it's difficult for these paper crafters to find young people who are willing to continue their work. And that's part of this big problem with the whole art and these ancient crafts.
It's like there's a way to do it easier. And if you can produce something similar, you're going to see a lack in quality.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not affecting the efficiency of the product and being a vessel to show art or to, display information, then, and even nowadays you're not really worried about that for information. It's all on a screen now. So
yeah, they said that they had machines that could help them beat the plants or detangle, but it slightly affected their quality, so they didn't want to use them, or they used them rarely or not at all. Yeah, that's just how dedicated they are to it all being just perfect.
Yeah, and you had mentioned he's a 9th generation paper crafter, so that's like easy 200 years.
Yeah.
For 200 years, this family's been making paper.
And his son was also working with him, so they're going to go for probably a while.
Yeah.
So then they take a screen and they sift it through the prepared kozo pulp, and they have to do this without splashing the pulp at all, because if a tiny bit splashes to the other side of the screen, they think it curls the paper and ruins the quality. So they're doing this just for hours till the paper slowly takes shape. And they actually have to measure the thickness to the millimeter by hand and intuition. It's just wild. Yeah.
He said you just gotta see it. You gotta know what it looks like. What 0.2 and 0.22, look like.
Yeah, and it's not like they're just guessing and they sell it however. It's like people order specific paper thicknesses. These guys know what they're doing. And in the end of this process, it's a relatively big stack, but it's not that much. One stack of this paper costs more than $8,000.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then all the blades are made by hand by these blacksmith specialists, and they craft the blades by sound. It's just wild. It's all so exact and precise and done with passion and dedication. It's outstanding.
The blades by sound thing I thought was interesting because that's, I have to sharpen knives probably once a week, if not more often, depending on how busy I get. And I've gotten to the point now that depending on the knives, like I have some that I've had for, like 7+ years. Those ones, when I sharpen them, it's like I can tell just from between the friction on the, on the carving or on the, the stone or, the radial steel that I'm sharpening on, I can tell by both the friction and then the sound of, when it's scraping.
Wow.
If it's ready. So that I get that. That's one I can recognize.
That's cool.
And then the goddamn brushes. The brushes, the section of watching this woman make a brush was so wild. And I mean, he even had like one in particular that he couldn't find anyone that made one that size. So he had kind of like combined two other ones.
These are the brushes they applied the ink to the blocks to press the print. And like you're saying, it was funny that one special brush was extinct, and I think he was actually combining like 9 little brushes to make one big brush.
Yeah, like how fucking bonkers, and it's just as, people are doing it less, then, you're just not going to have those tools and these craftsmen anymore that make these.
Right.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about this guy, a really impressive artist. I mean, both of them really, but the Ukiyo-e artist that the documentary was about is the art of the game Ukiyo-e Heroes. It's David Bull and Jed Henry. David Bull is the Ukiyo-e artist, and Jed Henry is a illustrator
And graphic designer.
Yeah, graphic designer that gives his presents the work to David, and he
David carves this video game style print, and they move them together, and it's so cool. I definitely I wanted to first make note that David Bull looks like an old professor I used to sell weed to. This dude, he's got his button-up shirt and his long beard, and he looks like he's down to party.
Yeah.
And then, like, the whole documentary, every time they show him, it's like one of those sci-fi movies where the astronaut's abandoned and he's doing his, like, video blog of his survival, like, day one. Like, it's so ridiculous. He looks like he's alone, lost to Japan for the last 30 years.
I thought he looked really familiar, too. He looks like my friend Doc that I played D&D with up here.
Because he's a white dude from England, and then he moved to Canada. Like,
he lived in Canada he grew up in Canada, and then he moved to Japan. He moved to Japan in the early 80s, just to learn how to make block prints. I guess he'd been back and forth or whatever, but he moved there to learn block prints. But he wouldn't be given apprenticeship under any of the working masters at the time. I assume because he's a white boy.
Yeah.
He's at that time was still, he was kind of older for that. But he became a working professional in the field by the end of the decade, just through teaching himself and working at it. Even one of the grandmasters of the style, like they had him in an interview in the documentary. He said that he would likely be one of the greatest at the craft if he had been apprenticed. His hard work and dedication make his work rival some of the masters who have trained their entire life with other masters.
That's a hell of a compliment for one of
seriously.
The masters of this art.
They say like some of his techniques are wild, but it's because like no one taught him otherwise. But he gets the job done.
And they were also impressed by like him being innovative in techniques because he didn't have the formal training. He came up with creative solutions too. So later in his career, some of these masters would call him a genius and admired his dedication and ability to teach himself without the formal training. One of the master carvers jokingly called him more Japanese than most Japanese.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah, it was. He said it like with a big smile. So David Bull, he spends a lot of his time also preserving ukiyo-e prints and archiving the woodblocks themselves and the prints. His four-story house/studio in Japan is absolutely filled with these woodblocks. And at one point, he's talking about how his family would even sleep with their beds on big stack of these blocks. It was like crazy. They're just everywhere. And he meticulously cares for this entire archive. He says they breathe all year long. They're dry in the winter. They're humid in the summer. You have to air them out, let them, cycle which ones are getting air when, clean them, occasionally print with them, and to make sure they're properly preserved. Because these blocks, like we were saying earlier, they can be used for hundreds of years to create new prints that are identical to the original when they're proper. That's so fucking cool. Mr. Bull, whatever, he even tests the prints by observing them under a microscope to make sure they are identical over the years. Yeah, that is so insane.
Yeah, he said he had some that were like 50 or some odd years years old that that he had done, and to be able to, or not 50 because he started in the 80s, but they were old, and he goes back and he can look at it and see just checking. He's like, he can't tell which one's the original, which one's the new one.
That's because so cool.
Yeah.
And despite his age, because he's like 80 something now.
He's getting up there for sure.
Yeah. And he's still working intensely. Like, he's got a crazy work schedule because even though there are so few artists, this craft is still, it's a rarity, and people still want these prints. So he's working very hard to make new work and to preserve its history. And it's so cool. He's still currently active on YouTube, where every week he's creating educational videos that will help try to teach this craft to the younger generations and preserve its history.
Yeah, I gotta find him on there.
Honestly, some of the videos are kind of dry, but it's one of those things where it is so important it exists. The traditional masters might not pass this stuff down to many, if any, people over the years, and it's it has to be preserved, and that's a very worthwhile mission he's undertaking.
It's a kind of thing. That's what the internet's for.
Exactly.
I mean, it's for many things, but that's definitely one of the big ones is, preserving information. Yeah. Having it available. That's so huge.
Lost knowledge. It's like forgotten memories. It's just such a sad thing. You can't let things that are that important disappear.
Yeah. So he had, David Bull had a strong business prproducing prints already. He's got a whole team of apprentices. Before he was approached by Jed Henry. Like I said, Jed's an illustrator. He's an enthusiast of Japanese and the ukiyo-e style. The work he sends to David is based mostly around video games and video game characters, just depicted in the classic Japanese ukiyo-e style. You've almost certainly seen their work on social media. He's got, Mario Kart. I think it was called Rickshaw Race.
Yeah.
Is the Mario Kart one, and there's Star Fox and Mega Man, and they title them differently. They don't, explicitly put those names on them.
Zelda too, I've seen.
Yeah. There's in Kirby. They're fucking crazy. So unfortunately, people do steal their images. I've seen these images on a bunch of different websites that aren't from them. Sure. So if you do want to, look at them and interested in buying any of them, make sure you're going from the creator on those for sure. I mean, with anything, but definitely these, I see these a lot all over the place.
Yeah. Look up Ukiyo-e heroes and you'll be able to find their stuff. I really like Jed. He was such a nerdy dude. He reminded me of someone we would know.
He reminds me of Keith.
Yeah, that's funny.
Not enough so much in the medium. I'm not sure. I don't think he's very much into the Japanese stuff, but him nerding out about art and him with his kids in the documentary, I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely
really
Keith.
That was really cute. He was working on that drawing of a warrior on a horse for one of these prints, and he's working all day finding references and shit, and then his daughters like drag him outside to like draw some My Little Ponies, and he's like, I can't get away from drawing fucking horses right now. One of the things I really liked that Jed did when he was designing these prints for David Bull is he would do that composition trick where you flip the composition, you just mirror it while you're working, and it was so interesting because they have to mirror the image for the woodblock print itself, but I haven't seen many people do that during because he's drawing a lot of these digitally and then inking them, but I hadn't seen many graphic designers do that, and that's a trick I use a lot. And I learned that from Drawfee. They do that a lot on there. Yeah, that's cool. It's whenever they get into like a real piece that they want to spend time on, you see them doing that. It's definitely one of those like art school kind of tricks where like somebody who's a real artist normally teaches you it and then it sticks for some reason. But a lot of people don't take advantage of it, and it's a very helpful tool. I've definitely had pieces of my own art where it just doesn't quite feel right, and then you mirror it, flip it, and like horizontally typically, and sometimes that's all it takes. It's just the change in orientation. Your eyes perceive it so differently that sometimes it can be finished as soon as you get the right flip. And then there's other times where just by flipping it, it allows you to see what mistakes you're making or what needs to change. This person's leaning over way too much. Far. Yeah, it's so weird. I love it. It's like plays tricks on my mind. So I thought that was cool to see him. You know, the documentary goes through their process a lot. I thought that was cool. Yeah, and the collaboration aspect of them being able to work overseas in different countries, so wild. I'm terrible at collabing with people, but I love the idea of it. And Jed just seemed like such a nice, good dude, and they just made an excellent team as they created authentic Ukiyo-e art with modern video game subject matter. Which is so in spirit with the original Ukiyo-e prints. This contemporary aspect was kind of brought back into this ancient art. This shit went crazy on the internet, and it completely revitalized both of their careers. They were both doing well before. I think they had their own like peaks and valleys kind of thing, but this really brought their careers to a new level and gave Ukiyo-e a new love and appreciation, which is just awesome. Yeah, it's really wild. There's even a part where, like you said, like David Bull's got his so much work to do, and they're on the Skype call. He's like, I got stuff falling off my desk. I've got so much to do. Yeah, and I really liked how like he has all this work and stuff, and he said he doesn't really believe in luck, and I really like that. I like he acknowledged there's so many things that are good and bad that happen in our lives that we don't have control of, but that hard work is what ultimately makes the change and not luck. And I think that's something I definitely tend to agree with. And it's amazing what he's been able to do. And it's also sad, like he's getting older and there's not a lot of people to continue this craft, and he's slowly losing his vision, and that's just the ultimate curse of an artist, and especially for something so technical that he has to do. Oh my god, yeah. I know. You can't see what you're carving. I mean, when we were doing bookbinding in school, there was Andrea learned that she had astigmatism that way because she couldn't get a consistent straight line with the ruler because of her. Oh wow! Her eyes. It's like, damn, that's you're just kind of fucked on that. Yeah, and that's kind of what our teacher told her, was like, you're just kind of fucked. Wow. Yeah, I know. I'm I'm not losing my vision, but I'm finally getting I got an eye appointment to get some new glasses because I've noticed mine declining. It's like,
I was gonna say you should be considering those blue light glasses, if nothing else, with the amount that you're looking at a screen.
Dude, I know. I use blue light filters a lot on my computer.
Good,
especially as like I normally like keep it regular light and then halfway through the day switch to blue light. So it's like, because that shit lights up your brain, man. Too much blue light, you just can't. Like I can't. It takes me hours after working to be able to like chill out and fall asleep or whatever.
Yeah, that's part of. I realized I had turned off my blue light thing on my phone, and I realized it's been fucking with me.
Yeah, I remember the first time showing that to Sarah. She was like, "Oh my god, this is so pleasant." I just really loved both of their enthusiasm for the art. Like they were so thoroughly in love with what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like Bull had like one break and he had like a beer with dinner. He's like, I can't carve for hours, but I cannot wait to get back to work.
Yeah. He's like, I definitely gotta wait, but
yeah.
Can't carve after having this one beer, but
right. And
it's like, yeah, fuck. Take it seriously enough. Yeah, you guess you're right.
Yeah. And he talked about like how fun is so contagious. And that's something me and you have talked about a lot, where like even if you just really express how interested you are in something or how much you enjoy something, it attracts that in other people. Like having fun or being excited about something, it's definitely contagious.
Yeah. And anybody, talking shit about, something they like.
Yeah.
It can get you hype, even if you don't know anything about it and you don't really, give a fuck about that topic in particular. Hearing someone that enjoys it and like is passionate about it, it really does light a fire up under anybody.
Dude, that's like in my opinion, some of the most important things in life is just passion and purpose. And it's like, as long as you know what those are, everything else fucking follows. That's all that fucking matters. Both of these dudes, David Bull and Jed Henry, they're outstanding artists, and they're working to preserve this beautiful art form. We both highly encourage you to check them out. And now we're going to kind of transition to some of the older masters of this craft, and I'll let you kick us off with that.
So the next artist we want to talk about is Yoshi Toshi. I know his name is fucking awesome. He's actually referenced a lot in the documentary. But he is without a doubt one of the most well known, one of the more prominent Ukiyo-e artists. He's widely recognized as the last great master of the Ukiyo-e genre. He's regarded as one of the form's greatest innovators. And it was because so he was interested in like new things from the rest of the world, but he became, as he got older, became increasingly concerned with the loss of many aspects of the traditional Japanese culture. Among them being the woodblock printing. So he would come up with so many different unique styles and different innovations in the compositions that sets his work so far apart from everyone else's. Even though it's still a class, he's clutching on to that tradition of it. He expounded on it, trying to like reignite the fire of it.
It's like still classic Ukiyo-e, but it's so like obviously his own unique work too.
Yeah. And by the end of his career, he was in a struggle against time and technology. As he worked on, in the old manner, Japan was adopting Western mass production methods like photography and lithography. Right. So Japan's turning away from its own past in his mind. So he like almost single-handedly managed to push the Japanese traditional woodblock print to a new level before it effectively died with him, as most people would say.
That's something that like Bull and Jed both talked about too, it's kind of like a controversial statement that the art form is dead because it's kind of like punk. It's dead, but there's people carrying the torch still. It's not really dead, but it's on its last breath.
Isn't that what makes, punk better, is when it's super underground and that's kind of like part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But so his life is best summed up perhaps by a quote from a man named John Stevenson. This was from Yoshitoshi's website, which is also really fucking dope, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yoshitoshi's courage, vision, and force of character give Ukiyo-e another generation of life, and illuminated it with one last burst of glory.
Some high praise.
Yeah. He definitely one of the, like I said, he's one of the most well-known artists of that style. But he's got such a wild story. But his work is it can be so graphic, and it can be so controversial in a lot of ways.
And then other times it's so serene. He's just so it's just so him.
you can tell he was trying to cover all the bases, to pass on, I guess. So Yoshitoshi was born in the Shambashi district of Old Edo in 1839. His father was a wealthy merchant who had bought his way into samurai status. At 3 years old, Yoshitoshi left home to live with his uncle, who was a pharmacist with no son. He was very fond of his nephew. And at the age of 5, he became interested in art, and he started to take lessons from his uncle. In 1850, he was 11 years old. Yoshitoshi was apprenticed to Kuniyoshi, was one of the great masters of the Japanese woodblock print. So many of Yoshitoshi's prints from the 1860s are depictions of graphic violence and death. They were partly inspired by the death of his own father in 1863 and by the lawlessness and violence of Japan surrounding him. And they were in the feudal state then, which was simultaneously experiencing the breakdown of the feudal system, as well as the effect of having contact with Westerners. In late 1863, Yoshitoshi began making violent sketches. It was eventually incorporated into battle prints designed into a bloody and extravagant style. The public people really enjoyed the prints. Because it's, it was such a new thing for that time, especially in this art form. So, he moved up the ranks, of ukiyo-e artists in Edo. With the country at war, his images allowed those who were not directly involved in the fighting to experience it, vicariously through his designs. They were so attracted to his work, not only for his superior composition and craftsmanship, but also his passion and intense involvement with the subject matter. And besides the demands of woodblock print publishers and consumers, he was also trying to exorcise the demons of horror that he and his fellow countrymen were experiencing. So they called these works the Bloody Prints.
Which is an awesome name.
It's so fucking cool.
Because these were like the first really graphic, prints that they had seen. It makes sense why people would be so excited by these.
Yeah. So his work spanned a wide range of creative topics, from just simply beautiful stuff to really complex and violent work. Some of his favorite subject matter depicted folk heroes, traditional ghost stories, and death scenes. The prints were very, very graphic in detail, such as decapitations of women with bloody handprints on their robes. Other examples showed strange and surreal scenes depicting the power struggle between two gambling rings, among other unique topics. He was a really prolific artist who produced a vast amount of work throughout his life. Some authorities here say that he created more than 10,000 pieces.
God damn.
And we have to assume that if that is even close to being true, that has to be, how like Edison invented the light bulb. Like it was invented within his laboratory, so he gets the patent for it. Like I'm sure he had a whole team of people that worked underneath him.
Yeah, we were doing some math on that earlier with how many years he had to create and how many pieces. But
starting at 11 years old until the day he died, if he produced, like basically a piece every single day, that's how that would have to be.
It was almost a piece a day for every day of his life after 11. But think about how many blocks you got to carve. I mean, it definitely had to include stuff that was done like out of his studio, but it is very clear he made a vast quantity of work.
Yeah. In his last years, his mental problems started to recur. In early 1891, he invited friends to a gathering of artists that didn't actually exist. It rather turned out to be a delusion. His physical condition also deteriorated, and his misfortune was compounded when all of his money was suddenly stolen in a robbery of his home. After more symptoms, he was admitted to a mental hospital. He eventually left in May of 1892. He did not go back home, though. Instead, he rented rooms. He died 3 weeks later in a rented room on June 9th, 1892, from a cerebral hemorrhage. Cerebral. I can't ever say that word.
It always fucks me up, too.
Yeah. He was 53 years old. Incredibly young for the kind of things that he is noted for accomplishing, the number of pieces that are attributed to his name, and the type of type of work that he produced. The mental state you'd have to be in to produce these works, so many of them is crazy. There is a stone memorial monument to Yoshitoshi. It was built in the Mukojima Heiken Garden in Tokyo. It was built in 1898.
Yeah, and Yoshitoshi's death poem read, holding back the night with its increasing brilliance, the summer moon.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, lovely words for a gravestone.
So all of Yoshitoshi's work is, or at least all that is archived, is on yoshitoshi.net.
Yeah, which is hilarious. That sounds so funny.
Yeah.
But that dude, that was so cool to find in researching this. I mean, everything they can find of his work is on there. I'm sure it's not, totally complete, but it's hundreds, if not thousands of pieces. And it's so cool to be able to go through his work by collection, through this archive. It's awesome.
I found that going through Wikipedia is also a good way to find really high quality images of a lot of these works, especially, like I said, the Hokusai and Hiroshige's the 36 views. If you just Google them, you even just Google 36 views of Mount Fuji, you'll find all of them. Like, they just lay them all out, and they're super high quality, and they're free to download. They make excellent computer backgrounds and mobile backgrounds. Really good shit.
Yeah.
So Ukiyo-e really was really a style that created the West's impression of Japanese art in the late 19th century, particularly the landscapes of Hokusai and Hiroshige. So from the 1870s onwards, Japanism, which is actually a word, it's the French term for weeaboos. It's just the Japanese influence on Western culture. Became a prominent trend and had a strong influence on early impressionists like Degas and Manet, and even our boy Claude Monet, who we know had a wide collection of Japanese art in his home and even had a Japanese aesthetic in his garden. Yeah. Ukiyo-e work had an impact on post-impressionists such as Van Gogh and Art Nouveau artists like Toulouse-Lautrec. And this was possible only because of the forced reopening of trade of Japan in 1958. It was the 1858. Thank you. The end of the Edo period in feudal Japan, where Japan practiced an isolationist foreign policy. Once they reopened trade, people in the West could enjoy their goods and their art. So I like we were just saying earlier, I personally don't feel it's fair to call the style dead, especially seeing these artists pumping life into its veins in the 21st century. I think it's absolutely fair to say that the life in the era that fueled the creation of this style is over. And many have taken it in their hands to input their own style and work, mostly for the better. I think the concept of composition in these pieces are really important because, mostly because the process with which they're created and composition is one of the most fundamental backbones of what makes art so great in any style. So it's a good translation. And it's clearly noticeable, yet extremely fluid regardless of where it's used. Like that style, it's a very unique kind of thing. And you can see it in a lot of, Toulouse-Lautrec work. You can see it in some of his, kind of poppy, cafe posters and shit kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I see their influence in illustrative work a lot, but like it's like in learning about these topics, both like Monet and this painting, I just find like the more I learn about these different art forms, especially watching it, that really helps me. Like the visual aspect of it, I appreciate the art form so much more. Yeah. I fucking love, like, I don't know, man. It's one of those things like I'm a very picky artist and I've gravitated to my own weird niche art because I don't like most art. And if I looked at most of these prints, even like a couple months ago, I would think like they're well done or cool, but I wouldn't have like a high amount of respect for a lot of them. And then like just by learning more about them, they become so much more interesting.
Yeah.
But the dedication and passion that's put into them and the care, and by exploring them more, I find more and more specific pieces that I find incredible.
Yeah.
So I just really enjoyed getting into this more and finding more art I like and more people that are helping this beautiful art continue to survive. It's awesome.
And like you said, it's helping you find more work,
inspiration.
Yeah. And, if it wasn't for us doing this recording, doing this research, you never would have found Diza. Or at least you never would have thought,
her.
Yeah. Let's be real. We all knew her. Yeah. Fucking, it's just the, yeah, like you said, I think it's in general doing the research on, a lot of these artists and stuff like that. It's making me grow a lot more. I'm surprised at how much more I like Monet after doing that research. I didn't really give a fuck either way about Monet. I thought we were going to rip shit on Monet and talk mad hella shit on him. But, I thought about that the other day too. We don't really talk shit as much as we thought we were going to. No. I think it's because we're picking things that we want to talk about and we want to enjoy.
It would be way harder to talk about shit we hate all the time. But yeah. I feel like we try to do a little trashing, but yeah, it's way better to talk about shit we like. And speaking of which, like we got our first 100 plays, which is pretty fucking awesome.
What?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the couple people that gave us feedback on the Monet episode, it was interesting to hear them say they felt the same way. Like they felt whatever about Monet, and just understanding, different things from history and different art, it makes it so much more interesting. And I don't really care about that, but finding the inspiration from these things is what's become valuable to me, finding the specific pieces of art or the aspects of an art that I might not have appreciated earlier. That inspiration for myself and my own art is very valuable.
Yeah. I do. I want to ask you while we kind of mentioned, talking trash on shit. Do you have any dishonorable mentions?
I had something written down, but I can't remember what it was. It's funny because like I feel like all week I hate so much stuff, and then in preparing for these, I'm trying. Like you said, we're finding things we enjoy, and I didn't. Oh, New York. I think it was Cuomo. That dude.
Yeah.
They found out he lied about the death rate in nursing homes by over 50%.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And that is going to be a big deal the next couple weeks. So,
yeah,
fuck all that shit.
Pretty fucked up.
What else was dishonorable?
Kidney stones. Fuck a kidney stone.
You mean, what was it, dick bullets?
Yeah, dick bullets.
Dude, I thought you were going to pass that kidney stone today while we were recording.
That would have been so brutal. I would have. I would have tried to record it if I did.
Oh,
I mean, not like it would have. It doesn't make a sound when it hits the bowl. It's not like that. It's just because it would have just been piss. It just.
Oh shit.
Yeah. If I ever have something cool and gross and wild I can do on recording, I'll absolutely do it.
Oh, it's definitely happening.
When we start doing our podcast in video format, then
that is going to be interesting.
That's going to be a very long time from now, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Is there anything else you want to mention? I know we wanted to say definitely to check out David Bull, Jen Henry, Art of the Game, Ukiyo-e Heroes. It's free on Pluto TV. It had all the ads, but a bunch of ads, but it's free to watch. I think it was on Amazon Prime. It's so funny, man. I have Sarah's Amazon Prime and yours, and I can't get either of them to fucking work. So, fuck Amazon. God damn. But yeah, definitely check those out. Is there anything else you want to mention? We're going to have our one last honorable mention.
Yeah. Let's check that one out.
Okay, so what we're going to do for this one, guys, is since we're not sure if we can really play shit, we're going to cut to us after watching this real quick and give our thoughts. This video is... this is one... Dude, I watched this video like probably every 6 months for like the last maybe 8 years because it makes me so genuinely happy. This is like the silliest, goofiest video, and it's a really catchy song too, but it's mostly just very funny. So nice. We're gonna cut to after we watch this real quick and give you your thoughts. The video is called I Rave You, the letter U, I Rave the letter U, by Ravex featuring DJ Ozma. And I've always known it just to be a DJ Ozma song with Ravex. Just YouTube, I Rave You. And check it out, and we'll be back in a sec.
Fuck you. Oh. This is brilliant. I love it. Okay, here's what I have. So here's what I have to say about this. I think the problem with American culture is that we take music videos way too seriously. Because what we need is more of this. We need so much more of this. It's fucking genius.
I'm literally crying.
It's just the music fucking bops. It's absolutely a jam.
Straight bop, Japanese Elvis, raving out. Dude, this thing has made me cry like every 6 months for like 8 years.
Dude, it's just the fucking the between the outfits and the fucking hairdos and the dances and the video editing, it's fantastic. And like I thought, people thought, Gangnam Style was weird when it came out. First of all, great fucking video. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That song in that video, great.
This is like the original.
Yeah, this blows it out of the fucking water. This ran so that Gangnam Style could walk in.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Oh my god, I'm glad you liked it. It just always makes me laugh, and I really want an excuse to watch it.
Yeah. No, this is fucking great.
Yeah, so if you guys, whether you liked or hated this episode, go check out this fucking video because it'll make you laugh.
Yeah.
Oh shit, bro.
So thanks again for listening. So of course, like we said, we got you're still riding on that high.
Recovering.
It's great. Like we said, we got our first 100 plays. You guys fucking rock.
Fuck yeah! Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human. You can.
Yeah, John, go watch that video again. I want to hear you get slap happy and laugh.
Fuck yeah. Make sure you check out the show page at Trash Cats Trashcast on Instagram for news and art from the show. If you're bored, you can check out Steven's trashy art.
Oh yeah, you'll find some random things we've mentioned and honorable mentions throughout my stuff. So feel free to check it out.
You can find Steven at Skyzix on Instagram. That's SKYZICX.
Thank you for reading that, because I'm...
No, that's all good. I started reading that, and then I realized that's your line. But once again, shout out to all of our, honorable mentions, Hokusai and Hiroshige, and Taketo Yamamoto. Shout out to Daiza.
What was it? Our other one, Yoshitoshi. Yoshitoshi. Thank you, Yoshitoshi.
Thank you to Fat Tub of Lard Records.
Such a great name. I think
so,
that does it.
Yeah, tune in next week for our episode on
Afterlife, bro.
Oh, the Afterlife. Yes, it's going to be great. I can't wait. That's going to be a good fucking episode.
And that'll be a nice fresh breath of air. I can't wait to talk about what we would reincarnate as. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah. I have a couple of good ideas in mind for that one already.
Awesome.
All right, that's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
See you next time. Thanks.
Bye. It's like that perm, dog.